Okay, so page 30, we're going to do number 8, and then we're going to have a quiz right after that on some products, so pay attention. Obviously, the ones with negative signs are the more difficult ones, and you have to know the rules. So for number 8, this is a common factor question, so you have to factor the first trinomial, and you have to factor the second trinomial. You can only use sum product if it starts with x squared. We'll see today we're going to have some that starts with 2x squared, and we can't do sum product until the second step. We got to take a 2 out first. But all these ones that we did, and take a peek here, all these ones here started with x squared, and they're trinomials. So when you see this, you should think sum product. That's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to use decomp. Decomp is way too, it's twice as hard, not twice as hard, it's twice as long as I'm just doing sum product. So please recognize when you do sum product, and after we learn decomp, don't do decomp the whole time. Okay, so it's going to be x squared. That means the number at the end is the product. The number before x, including the sign, because the term starts with the sign, is the sum. So what two numbers multiply to 21 and add to negative 10? Anybody get it? Yep. Perfect. So write that down if you didn't get it. So x subtract 3 times x subtract 7 is the blue factor, and the green guy is the same product almost. Product is negative 21 this time, and the sum is negative 4. Okay, so the difference between those two is the blue one has a positive product, which means the same sign, and the green one has a negative product, which means different signs. You're going to have one positive number times one negative number. It's very important you know that as soon as before you start even looking at the numbers, whether you have two negative numbers or one negative number and one positive number. Okay, so this one, in green, you're going to have two numbers that multiply to negative 21 and add to negative 4. 7 and 3 are the numbers. Which one's negative? 7. Good job. The rule we learned yesterday is if the sum is negative, the big number is negative. So this is x subtract 7 times x plus 3. And then this is a common factor question. Go ahead and underline common factor in the question. That means what part of the answers are the same. And you can see they both have x subtract 7 as a factor. Okay, so the answer is apple. Any questions on that guy? Okay, we're going to have a sum product quiz now. So get a separate piece of paper. Okay, so turn to page 30. And we need some more sum product practice. And we're going to start with the charts. So go ahead and fill these two charts out. With negative numbers, 8 questions. I'll give you 5 minutes. We'll try to do it quicker than yesterday. It should be getting easier and easier. Remember the rules when we have a positive product, like these two guys, the green guys, that means you have either 2 positive numbers or 2 negative numbers. All these blue guys have negative products, so all of them are going to have 1 positive and 1 negative. Positive product means the same sign. Negative product means different signs of the 2 numbers. All right, you go. Take your best guess. Guessing's fine, but don't let your guess be the last step. Then check your guesses with the calculator and see if they multiply to negative 24 and add to positive 5. If they don't, you'll probably have to just switch the signs. Okay, let's rock and roll. A, the product is negative, so I have 1 positive number, 1 negative number. It's 6 and 4. The rule is if the sum is negative, the big number is negative. If you like that rule. If not, just put a negative somewhere and guess and check. See if the answers work out. These two numbers multiply to negative 24, and they add to negative 2. If they add to positive 2, just switch the signs. There's no reason to get the close answer, get the right answer. Okay, negative 16, that's 8 and 2. One's negative, one's positive. If the sum is positive, the big number is positive, so the 8's positive, which means the other one is negative. Check. Yep. This one, negative 8. 4 times 2 equals 8. If the sum is positive, the big number is positive. Or, let's say we just guess on this one. We know it's 4 and 2, we're just not sure which one's negative, so we do that. Oops, I meant to go like that. If we put the wrong answer, that's fine. Let's just check it. Negative 4 and 2. They multiply to negative 8, and now they add to negative 2 when you put negative 4 plus 2 on your calculator. So what? That just means switch it, and that's going to become plus 4, and that becomes negative 2, and you got it right. So save your marks. Don't just take your best guess and leave it. And of course, we're going to make some silly mistakes, but we can cut down on those for sure. So e to negative 2. This one is 12 and add to negative 8. Anybody get that? You have a positive product, so you know we have two negative numbers. Now it's easier. Negative 2 and negative 6. You betcha. And this one, if you know your multiplication tables, 8 times 7 should jump out at you for 56. The sum is positive, big number is positive. This one, positive product, just like the second last one, that means you have two negative numbers. What are they? Negative, you can't read your own writing. Negative 3, I know what you mean. Good job. I like the last two. You may get negative 1,000 and add to 30. Nice. Negative 20 and 50. 5 times 2 is 10, and then 2 zeros, just add the zeros there. Super duper. And I had to look at this 2 or 3 times. What numbers multiply to 91? My favorite hockey player, Butch Goring, hardest worker ever. Yep. Good job. 13 and 7. If the sum is negative, the big number is negative. Awesome. How did you figure that out? Well, no one in the entire world knows that. I'm just kidding. But punch your calculator. 91 divided by 2, 91 divided by 3. Obviously not 2 because it's not even. And you will get the answer. All right. I'm never going to ask you this chart. I'm going to ask you the questions where you go x subtract 2 times x subtract 6, x subtract 6 times x subtract 3, and x subtract 13 bracket times x plus 7. I'm not going to ask you chart questions. I'm going to ask you factor questions. Let's move on. Okay, so I want you to do a couple of these homework questions right now to get a bit more practice on the negatives. I haven't assigned the homework yet, but it will all be homework. And that will be some of your homework. So 2A, 2C, 3B. Let's do those right now. And if you're done and are waiting, just work on the other ones because they will be homework soon. Okay, so GCF sum product. This is when they don't start with x squared, but the first step we talked earlier, the first step to GCF is to take the GCF out when you can. So all through the test, you're going to be able to take GCFs out. Step 0, remember, is collect like terms, but that's a rare question. But you'll have to take GCF outs quite a bit on the test, which is next week sometime. So how do we do this? Well, we can't do sum product because it doesn't start with x squared. It is a trinomial though, so it might turn into a sum product. So write down these are two-steppers. The first step is sum product. Is GCF. The second step is sum product. GCF, remember, is take the greatest common factor out and the lowest exponent out and see what happens. Well, this one, you can take a 4 out. You get x squared, subtract 8x plus 12. When you divide everything by 4, feels like you're done because you've always been done at this point. You're not done. Now you can sum product the bracket part. So you need two numbers that multiply to 12 and add to negative 8. Positive product means you got two negative numbers. The answer is -6 and -2. Why isn't that full marks? Awesome. You have to bring the 4 down or this will not be equal. Remember the equal signs. They're important. They're powerful. Write down. Bring down the 4. If you don't, you're going to lose 25% of your marks. But if it's a multiple choice question, you're going to lose all of your marks. You have to bring down the 4. Remember, you have a 4x squared here. The only way you're going to get, if you FOIL this, you get x squared. The only way you're going to get 4x squared is if you have that 4 to distribute into the x squared. Okay, so don't forget the 4. You can't just let it disappear. Otherwise, it's not equal. All right, try to do the same thing in B. Try to make it an x squared question so you can do some product. Don't forget the second step. Now you're not going to be done just after you find GCFs. You got to look at what's inside the bracket to see if you can factor it further. Tomorrow we'll be doing GCF difference of squares questions. Again, first step, can you take a GCF out of every term? And don't forget, you can take a number out and the lowest exponent out. So most times this is going to be a number. That's study star B. This time we have to take what out? 3x. Good job. And then, what's that? Good try. Divide by 3x, divide by 3x. I already gave you 12. And I have no Coke. If you want to divide by 3x like this, if it helps you, you can. Or you can just go 3x times what equals 3x cubed, x squared, plus 7x, plus 10er. Now, it feels like we're done. No more. Just the GCF. Now the second step is to factor the underlying part, the trinomial that starts with x squared. If you didn't get the 3x, I'm going to give you 33 seconds to finish it off. Now you need two numbers that multiply to 10 and add to 7. Those numbers are 5 and 2. And again, don't forget to bring down the 3x. All right, B is hard one. C is the easiest two-stepper I can give you. So go ahead and do C. Okay, C, we can't do two numbers that multiply to 4 and add to 6 because it's not a sum product question. Sum products only start with x squared. This one starts with 2x squared. So the first step is, can you take a GCF out? What's a GCF? 2. You can take a 2 out of everything. You write twice. And then you create a sum product question in the brackets. Okay, what two numbers multiply to 2 and add to 3? 2 times 1 and 2 plus 1. Is that full marks? Nope. Don't forget to bring down that 2. You got to bring down your GCF. Your GCF has to stay with your answer. Otherwise, it is not equal. Okay, let's do a couple more of these questions. I was going to assign 9 and 10 for homework, but let's do them now. So go to the next page and try 9 and 10, knowing that we just did GCF sum product questions. So try 9 and try 10. It is a two-stepper. You do sum product. Even though we haven't done 10 yet, try it on your own, and you'll remember it better once we do it. Let's see how you did with number 9. What's the GCF in 9? It's a tricky one. Yep. Good job. It's negative. Remember we talked about when it starts with a negative, you take a negative out. So negative m, and that's going to change all the signs, so you got to be careful. Once you write down your bracket, make sure you check it to make sure you didn't make a sign mistake. So this one is m squared plus m subtract 6. That's what my brain tells me. Let's see if it works. So this gives me negative m cubed. This one arrow gives me negative m squared, and this gives me plus 6m. Okay, I'm on the right track. So I got half my marks. Now sum product, if you didn't get that, I'll give you some time to do that sum product question. The two numbers are multiply to negative 6 and add to what number is this? There's a 1 here. Sum equals 1, and the two numbers are 3 and 2. The sum is positive, the big number is positive. So m plus 3 times m subtract 2, and then don't forget the GCF in front of it. Check. Does that give us one of the answers? Is it A, B, C, or D? One factor. So what's this is one factor, this is one factor, and that's one factor. What's the answer? A is correct. Okay, remember, one factor means what's part of the answer. This is three numbers multiplied to get our trinomial. I'll leave you some time for 10. Another one factor question. Again, study star 9 and study star 10. You see those? I dare you to get them right. GCF, sum product? Okay, well, I'm not expecting to get this right, but you do have to recognize it's a sum product question. That's going to help you immensely. First thing you do is take a 3 out, and it looks like a sum product question because it starts with x squared and it's trinomial. So let's write that down. This is a sum product question. GCF sum product. Doesn't look like a sum product, but if it is a sum product, that means the product equals -3 and the sum equals -2. So two numbers are multiplied to -3 and add to -2 are -3 and 1. So bring down the GCF, create brackets, factor means create brackets, and you get x subtract 3 and x plus 1. You are 99% done. The only thing you have to recognize is that when you multiply -3 times 1, you do not get -3y squared. Any idea on what to do? Any thoughts? Miss Anna? Outstanding. Remember, when you see a y squared, you should always think y times y equals y squared. So when you put a blue y there, then it makes sense. That gives you x, y's as the middle terms, and it gives you subtract 3y squared as your last term. Okay, so star that one. We'll do more than one of those. But this is the first one we did. And now, what's the common factor? A, B, C, or D? D is correct. So now you're allowed to do number 4 on page 31 are going to be the two-steppers, GCF, sum product. They don't start with x squared. They start with 4x squared. And you take a 4 out, then they start with x squared. And don't forget to do the second step, or you're gonna get 50%. Do the second step, all the marks are yours. Any questions on GCF sum product? This one, little trick to it, you got to put a Y at the end. Is it a big giant trick? Not really. But if you don't recognize it as a sum product question, then it's a really difficult question. If you can start doing sum product when you see an x squared and you see a trinomial, then you're on the right track and you'll get it right. As long as you check your answer, because you're not going to get a y squared unless you put 2 y's at the end. Oops. Okay, let's go to differences of squares, please. And we're happy with differences of squares. They're the easiest factoring we can do. They're related to FLA, which takes 10 seconds. These take 10 seconds. We want to get all of these right. For sure, for sure, for sure. First of all, you only use difference of squares when you have 2 terms. Now, right here on the whiteboard, we have 2 terms. That's not difference of squares. That's still GCF. But so it doesn't immediately make a difference of squares, but you'll see what we need to do for the difference of squares. They're pretty easy to recognize. You do not have an x term. You have an x squared, and you have a number at the end. But not only that, it says difference. Difference means subtract. You have to have a subtraction sign in the middle, or you can't do this. So write down must be a subtraction sign. If it is, oh, you're happy. If it's not, you'll see when we do one of them, it's going to be unfactorable, but I would never give you that question. Remember, on my quizzes and tests, I'm never going to give you a question that you can't factor. So I'm going to make it just a GCF question, because there's an addition sign. That's a good question. You are meaning to get, okay, I'll give you a free chocolate. I'm losing a lot of chocolate bars. Okay, next. Let's just simply do the third one. I'm only going to do one for you, and then you're going to get the hang of it immediately. So how you do these is you square root each term. What does factor mean? Create brackets. The square root of x, again, or x squared, when you see x squared, you're thinking it's x times x. So square root of x squared is x. You put 1x there, 1x there, and the square root of 36 is 6. Square root means what number multiplied by itself equals 36. And then you put one addition and one subtraction. It doesn't matter which one you put first. Pretty sweet. Equal signs and you're done. If you didn't put equal signs, kick yourself in the shins. You need to put equal signs. Go ahead and do the next 2, please. And you can check your answer by using FLA. X squared, subtract 36, in case you made a mistake where you said the square root of 16 equals 8 or something. That 8 times 8 does not equal 16. So you can find silly mistakes by checking. Okay, this one, what's the square root of x squared? X, what's the square root of 1? One number times itself equals 1. Don't forget that, because in the radical unit, which is our next unit, some students leave radical 1 as radical 1. Square root of 1 has to be simplified into the number 1. And then one addition, one subtraction. I'm going to put the subtraction one first because it doesn't matter. This one is a subtract 10 times a plus 10. If you follow this, you get a squared subtract 100. Your turn. Do C. Factor m squared subtract n squared. And what'd you get? What's square root of m squared? Muchacho. What's the square root of n squared? Nacho cheese. One addition, one subtraction. Means Uncle Chen. Tell me. Doesn't mean best friend? I'm going with best friend.
I think that fun fact should deserve me a card.
You guys see one of your funds? Like doubles? Or take it? Okay, let's do this one. One more on this page since there's so much space. 4x squared plus 16. You go. Factor means create brackets. Don't say anything, just do it. I like the wrinkly eyebrows. Wrinkly eyebrows means you got it. At least you didn't fall for, this is not a difference of squares questions. This is not subtraction sign. You can't go square root, one addition, one subtraction. This is a GCF question, where you can take a 4 out, and you get x squared plus 4. It's very tempting. All of our brains are going to say square root, one addition, one subtraction. You say, no way, brain. There's no subtraction sign in the middle, so that is the answer. You're done. If you put 2x subtract 4 times 2x plus 4, you get 0 marks on this one. It has to be a subtraction sign in the middle. Okay, we got some blocks of difference of squares questions, so go ahead and do the next, I believe, 4 questions on the next page. Yep, example 1, A to D. Okay, let's do example 1. This is the reverse of flaw, bless you. So square root of a squared is a times a. Square root of 4 is 2. One addition, one subtraction. Next. Square root of t squared is t. What's square root of 144, everyone? 12. That's everyone's favorite. Plus 12 and subtract 12. If you plot, again, occasionally I'll see 72. That's addition. Remember, arrows mean multiply. So 12 times 12 is $1.44. Okay, this is like muchacho nacho question. This is x subtract y times x plus y. How long did that take? 5 seconds? No, not even. You like these questions? And this one, you probably didn't make a mistake, but I'm going to advise you to put 49 instead of 7 squared. And then square root. So you get p subtract 7 times p plus 7. And the reason I'm advising that, because this question is a lot harder than that one. If I say p squared subtract 4 squared, you might put p subtract 2 times p plus 2 if you square root the 4. If you put square root of 4 squared equals 16, then you're going to square root 16, and you're going to put p plus 4 times p subtract 4. So simplify the square first so you don't make any silly mistakes on a question like this one. All right, example 2 is all yours. 6 questions. 6 quick questions. Square root, 1 addition, 1 subtraction. You know what, we'll do example 2a together since we don't, this is kind of the hardest question I can ask you in difference of squares as far as the one-steppers go. And it's still the same thing. You square root 16p squared, and you can square root the number first. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of t squared means t times t. And then square root of 49, 7 and 7. 1 addition, 1 subtraction. So sometimes you have to square root a number and a variable. Your turn. Okay, B. Square root. You can do it all at once if you want to. What times itself equals 81a squared? 9a times 9a. 1 times 1. 1 addition, 1 subtraction. C is 10 subtract y times 10 plus y. Usually we will write the y's first, but you don't have to. And I guess D is the hardest question I can ask you, really, for the one-stepper. Anybody want that answer?
16.
Not at none. Times.
Times 6 plus 5.
Awesome. So is that the right answer? I'm now going to do a cartwheel. Actually, I'm injured. I can't do that for you. E. Stupid E. What do you put? For homework that you'll never put on my test. You could take a 1 out, but you'll get the same thing. You put not factorable. No, that's a good answer, 1. But 1 just disappears, and then you get the exact same answer. So again, I'm never going to ask you that. What I'm going to ask you is 4x squared plus 16, where you can take a 4 out at least. You can take a GCF out. But that's what the homework says, and I like this question because it makes you read the question. It says, if possible, that implies you can't factor one of these, or more than one. Yep.
Positive, and you just have like plus 5 in both.
That's an awesome question.
Check.
Yep. Okay, let me give you a chocolate bar. And you can't give this to anybody else. You have to give this to your mom and dad. That's a super question because that would be a common mistake, and I understand it. But if you do foil this, or sorry, if you flaw this, that's fine, but you don't flaw this one because it doesn't have different signs. You'd have to foil this one, and you'd get 10x plus 10x equals 20x, and that's not what we started for. Okay? So great question. Glad you asked it because that's going to clear some things up. You can't put 2 addition signs because that's going to give you middle terms, which don't exist in this question. F is impossible because it's got 2 variables and a number. I don't think anyone can do this, can they? What's the answer for F? 8 minus 3ab times, I know, 8 plus 3ab. Or vice versa with the signs. You guys, please take 10 seconds, and they're worth as much as all the other factoring, GCF, some product questions. You want to get all these right. You're happy when I give you a question like this. Okay, let's get example 3 out of there. Go ahead and do example 3. And again, something like E, I'm not going to ask you on the test, but I will ask you something with an addition sign in the middle, and it'll become a GCF question. Great question, Sir Raymond. Okay, this one is just difference of squares. It's a binomial, the subtraction sign, so square root, 5a subtract b times 5a plus b. This is a very, well, you're going to have a question like this on my test, you always do. Okay, so star this one. This is the length, and this is the width. The length is longer, so that's the addition one. But the second question, add this to your question please, is find the dimensions. Dimensions means width and length. If A equals 5 and B equals 7. Put that away please and write that down. Put that in your bag and shut them off. Thank you. Okay, so let's do the length first. I'll underline that in blue. And simply we just take the 5a plus b, and wherever we see an a we put 5, and wherever we see a b we put 7. Okay, so the length, I'm going to just put L equals 5 times a, which is 5 times 5, because a equals 5, plus b, which equals 7. And then punchy, your calculator will give you 25 plus 7, 32. I was going to put meters, but it's actually feet. Okay, 32 feet. Your turn. I want you to do the width for me, please. Find the width of this floor, this court, double squash court. International. Oh, you're a really good squash player. You're going international. Find the width when a equals 5 and b equals 7. And you get 5 times 5 plus 7, which equals, subtract 7. 25 subtract 7 is 18 feet. Now I could also ask you for the area. If I asked you for the area, you'd have to find the length and the width like we just did, and then multiply them together, because area equals length times width. So again, read the question carefully. Homework. What's that? Okay. Oh, she wants extra homework. Okay, good question. So yes, you do need to practice math to get better at math. So let's do that, and I'm not even going to give you a chocolate bar for that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and these go real quick. And then one question at the end. So the homework is also page 34 up to the heading. So you got page 31, which you worked on a little bit, and page 34. Tomorrow we have a sum product quiz that I'm going to hand out and take in. So no freebie tomorrow. And then we're going to do GCF difference of squares, which is impossible to do if you don't take a GCF out. And if you take a GCF out, it becomes easy. So I'll kind of term that as a medium question. All right, go ahead and wipe off your desks. Thank you. Great class. Have an awesome lunch.